Today we're escaping into the world of beverages as I take a bit of a road trip with a good mate of mine, Zane. We're going to learn a lot about beer and the Pinot industry here in Tasmania. Before we go and do that, I'm going to show you a great recipe to go with beer. Beer is one of those drinks that goes really well with snacks, in particular pork snacks. So I'm making basically a hot pork snack, hot numbing pork snack. So fried pork, like little popcorn pork, I guess you'd say, an Asian version of popcorn pork. And then we're going to have a chat to the head brewer at Little Rivers Brewing Co. about what makes good beer. So how you can, I think there's only 4 ingredients that go into beer, so they have to be really good. So we'll have a chat about that. Before we get into that, we'll jump into this recipe. I need a knife. I've got my pork belly. I want to chop this into, it's already been scored for me. I want to chop it into sort of bite-sized pieces because that's how we're going to eat it. So little battens. And once we've got those battens, keep the skin on. Some people might take the skin off. Because we're not really crisping the skin up, you can take it off if you want to, but I actually like the texture of the skin, even if it's not nice and crispy. So that's the kind of size that we're after with these little pieces of pork. Pop them into our bowl. Next strip. I probably only need to do half of this belly. Again, a little bite-sized pieces. This is a nice lean piece of belly, which is good. Try and get a lean piece because we're not cooking it for a long time and rendering out a lot of that fat. It's going to be cooked quickly in oil. We don't want all that fat. And there's normally a lean end and a fat end of the belly. So try and get the lean end. We've got cumin, coriander and chili flakes. They're all going to go in. If you've got whole spices, toast them off and then put them in a pestle and mortar and grind them up first. Sesame seeds. Peppercorns, pinch of black peppercorns. Szechuan pepper if you can get hold of it. Ginger and garlic, fresh. You could use powdered ginger and garlic if you wanted to. Thinly sliced. We're basically just making a little marinade here for it to sit in for as long as you can possibly allow it to sit. Take a little bit of the skin off this ginger. And a clove of garlic. So that was 2 large cloves of garlic and about a 1-2 centimetre piece of ginger we popped in there. A little bit of sugar. A tablespoon of sugar. Soy sauce. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. About 2 tablespoons of ketchup mayonnaise. Just like a sweet soy. I'm going to fry those peanuts up at the end, so I might as well pop them in there and get some flavour on them as well. Give that a mix around. Okay, so that'll go into the fridge now. Well, actually, it's only half an hour, and because it's been in the fridge, it can sit out. You don't want to put something that's super cold into hot oil because 1, it's going to pop, but 2, we want to cook it through, and if it's cold in the middle, it's going to take longer to cook and we'll end up burning the batter on the outside. So I'll leave that for half an hour out, add some flour, leave it for another half an hour, and then we'll be ready to fry. Just did a little test batch there to make sure my oil is hot enough, which it is. So now we can start cooking this in batches. The good thing about a wok is it heats up really quickly, but it also cools down really quickly. So if your oil is too hot, because it's such a thin pan, a thin conductor of heat, it'll cool down quickly if it's too hot. All right. So you want to fry this in, it's probably going to be about 4 or 5 batches. So once you've gone through frying that in batches, just needs to go into a bowl, serve it with a beer, and it is beautiful.
Never have to hide again. Together never has to end, and we'll be holding on to the morning dawn, darling. We two together.
That's 2 batches cooked, which is plenty for me. I've probably got 2 more batches there. I can put that in the fridge and use it another day. Now we'll head off and have a chat with Chris, who is the head brewer at Little Rivers Brewing Co., and learn a little bit about what it takes to make good beer and good Pinot Noir here in Tasmania.
Morning dawn, darling. We together. Holding on, tell me what you want, darling. We together, you and me.
We're making our first stop here at Holm Oak to talk to Rebecca about her winemaking process.
All right, so in here we've got all of our 2018 Pinot. So it stays in the barrels, depending on the wine, up to sort of 15 months.
Okay.
Our main blend of Pinot is in oak for about 10 months. So we have to top the barrels about every 6 weeks because some does evaporate.
How long's that been in there?
So that's been in since the end of March, the 30th of the 3rd, so about 4 months.
Jeez.
Yep.
It drinks pretty good for 4 months.
5 months, yeah, it's got that lovely richness and that's what that river block brings because it has got that, it's slightly warmer, beautiful sort of
More
rich,
development.
quite opulent styles of Pinot from down there.
And you were saying when we were down amongst the Pinot before that the same clone grown in a different part of the property can have completely different flavours.
Absolutely. So down on the river block, it's a really lovely north-facing slope. It's quite warm. It's obviously quite right on the water as well. So we get quite intense, rich wines from down there. Where we have a block just out here behind us that we call the winery block, and it's sort of flatter and different soil types, and it tends to be a little bit more pretty and aromatic, and so quite different. Even though they're only probably a couple of 100 metres apart, they are quite different wines.
You can make a grape taste like 150 different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about that today because sometimes when you talk about wine at this level, looking at the individual things, it can become a little bit overwhelming. But if the winemaker does their job, right, then they've sort of done all the hard work in blending all the different components together, and you just get to enjoy the final product. So, essentially, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. We're meeting the maker behind the Little Rivers Brewing Co., and then continuing on to St Helens to pick up some fresh produce for dinner.
So just up here, oh, here he is. G'day, mate.
How we going?
Good.
Where you were taking me.
This is Chris. This is Ben.
Hey mate, how are you?
Didn't think I was going to find you out here in the sticks.
What about on the way in? This is on my bucket list. Drinking beer next to a flying river.
Yeah,
So I'm going to be very happy if
that's the way.
you're going to open one of those beers for me.
Yeah, definitely. Crack her open.
How long have you been brewing?
So we're coming up to our 5th birthday this January.
Yeah.
So 5 years we've been going now.
Good
All
job,
in one
mate.
location in Scottsdale?
Yeah, in Scottsdale. So all from there, we've grown a fair bit in that time. We've went from a little 200 litre brew house system to now we've got a 2,000 litre. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And what's this one?
This is our Dorset Lager. So this is named after the Dorset municipality that we're here in the northeast.
Yep.
So nice, easy drinking, summer style beer.
A bit sus if you're not having one, mate.
Oh yeah.
Oh, how good's that? So this river is one of the rivers that is the Little Rivers?
That's it, yeah. This is actually the source of our brewing water in Scottsdale. So
Yep.
this is the Forester River here, and this is where we get our clean, green water, ideal for brewing beer.
Yeah.
So,
And these rivers exist everywhere in Tasmania, don't they? These little sort of free-flowing,
yeah,
beautiful
little rivers.
Little rivers, yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah. So the northeast is like renowned for its small streams, rivulets, creeks, and rivers like this. So.
Yeah. How many different brews do you do?
So we've got a core range. So we have a pale ale, golden ale, the lager. We do a dark lager as well.
Yeah.
And a session IPA, which we've named Dan Busters after the Derby mountain bike trail there,
yeah.
the world-renowned trail of Dan Busters.
Have you seen that sort of completely change the region, the Derby mountain bike trail?
Yeah, so that pretty much opened up and started when we did. So it's
Yeah.
about 5 years old as well. So
Yeah.
it's great. It generates so much tourism to the area, and they just work well together, the mountain bikes and the craft beer. They love it. So.
Mountain bikers and beer.
Yeah. After a long day on the trails, it's perfect for them. So.
Yeah. And what's the sour series? I saw a box.
Yeah, so that's just an experimental series we're brewing. Over winter, it gets pretty quiet in the brewery, so we get to play around and experiment with a few things.
Yep.
So we're brewing a beer with lactobacillus in it.
Yeah.
So,
Ah.
so it sours it up. It
Yeah.
creates a bit like a cider sort of wine-style beer.
Yeah.
And dry on the finish, and
Nice. So lactobacillus is the bacteria that we use when we ferment kimchi and make things like that in the restaurants.
yeah.
So
yeah.
it's going into beer.
Yeah.
You
So
can
it's
have your
gut health. Yeah,
you
good
can
for
have
you.
your
Yeah.
cooked and your beer all at the
That's
same
it.
time.
That's it.
Finally.
So yeah, we're experimenting with that and using local ingredients, berries, herbs, spices, and stuff like that.
Yep. How's it going?
Yeah, good. We're just waiting on labels now. So
Yeah.
we did a passion fruit sour beer probably a month ago, and we've been selling it clear skin. People
really?
wanting it, but we're waiting on the label. So yeah,
It's
just
one of
out
those
to sell
things
it
at the
all.
moment. I think craft and boutique beer, people are willing to try. They've got a lot more courageous and outgoing with what they'll try now. Whereas when we were growing up, beer was beer and there wasn't a lot of variation.
That's it.
But now
yeah.
people are willing to try passion fruit beers and floral beers and all the boutique stuff that's out there.
Yeah, they're after a bit of flavour with their
Yeah.
beverage. So
I think this is, though, I still crave a beer that's a little bit sessionable, that you can have 6 or 7 of and
Yeah.
it doesn't taste like potpourri at the end of it.
yeah, this one's
this is
perfect.
good.
The Dorset Lager for that.
Yeah. Oh, mate, that is a big tick off my bucket list.
Yeah.
All I need is a fishing rod.
So the northeast is like renowned for its small streams, rivulets, creeks, and rivers like this. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I grew
ideal.
up fishing and camping next to these sorts of rivers.
Yeah, it's
I never
perfect.
thought back then when I was fishing and camping next to them as a little fella that I'd be drinking beer next to them with beer that was actually brewed from the water.
That's it. Yeah.
That is a big tick off my bucket list. This is, I think, quintessential Tasmania. That is a beautiful place, not only to make beer, but to have a beer. It was a lot of fun that day. So I'm going to show you a classic beer recipe, beef and Guinness pie. I was thinking about doing beer battered fish, but everyone sort of has seen beer battered fish and it's pretty simple. I'm going to show you a different type of beer in Guinness. It's got a lot more flavour and depth of flavour. I'm going to turn it into a little beef pie. First thing I need to do is cook off my beef. So I've got just minced beef and an onion, which I'll dice straight into the pan. Just throw that in there with a whole heap of flavour, as much flavour as I can get in. And I'm just going to smash some potatoes. So I'm not going to do like a potato mash. Instead of pastry, I'm going to use our potatoes on top as our cover or our lid to our pie. Slice or dice? I'm going to go slice. I prefer sliced onions over diced onions. I don't know why, it's a textural thing. I just like the texture of sliced onions. Dicing onions probably gets the flavour more evenly spread throughout the dish, but I like that texture of a sliced onion. So slice this. And this one. Some oil. An onion. I'm going to cook that onion out, get some colour on it, put some salt in. As soon as you put your onion in, get some salt in to draw any moisture out of the onion, cook that off, intensify the flavour, give it some nice colour so it's got a little bit of sweetness. We're going to add brown sugar later, but we want that sweetness because the beer is a little bitter. So we'll cook that onion off, then we'll add our mince, cook that down, and then I'm going to add the rest of our ingredients. So I've got some brown sugar, tomato paste, Dijon mustard, some vinegar to balance out that sweetness, our Guinness, of course, and some fresh herbs. So that's our filling for our pie done. Lots of strong flavours. It's absolutely delicious. So now into our pie tins, or you just need a baking tray really. You're going to serve it, well, I'm going to serve it in these, so think of one that's nice, that's going to be nice to serve in. So fill up your little pie dish. I always find it's easier to make pie mixture the day before and work with it when it's cold. You're just going to go in the oven, so you're going to heat it back up, but if you cook it off first and then work with it while it's cold, it seems a lot easier to deal with. That's why leftovers are always so good as pie fillings. Or even leftovers, you can let this cool and put it in a jaffle. It'd be a pretty good jaffle. All right, our potatoes. Got some little potatoes here. Just pop them on top. And I'm just going to drizzle these with a little bit of oil and a pinch of salt, and then they'll go into the oven for about half an hour, basically until our potatoes are cooked. So that's the only thing that needs to be cooked at this stage. All right. Little drizzle of oil. Pinch of salt on top of our potato. You could grate some cheese over the top if you wanted to. All right, into our oven. Give that about half an hour for those potatoes to cook through, get a little bit of colour on them, and then you have a Guinness and potato pie. Yep.